Are you done slamming stuff around on your desk?
Not yet. I got a few more things I got to throw.
Okay. You can throw those around then later.
Wait, is it caucus time?
It's caucus time.
It's caucus time.
Can you imagine that? It's caucus time.
Wow.
Oh, man. Welcome on in, everybody. It is time for an unauthorized caucus. And we've got an interesting topic today. We're going to keep this one just a touch on the shorter side, simply because of schedule. I know if y'all follow us around the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles world, there's a lot of stuff going on. We're into a brand new world. 68 days now, as of this recording and releases today, into the Trump administration. And I mean, it feels like it's been 68 years. I mean, the amount of stuff coming out. So we're currently wading through a lot of that. And as a result, we are just not as flush with time as we once were, in the same spots, I should say. We still have time. It's just not always in the same spot. So thank you for scooting along with us as we continue to talk about things that matter. But today on Caucus, we have a really good one. You guys have a great headline. I'm going to interview Mason a little bit on this because he actually co-wrote a piece over on Substack that just touches off on something that is being touched on in our Phyllis Schlafly commentaries later on this month, or I should say next month. It's not quite April yet. I'm a little ahead of myself. But let me tell you, first of all, the housekeeping, go to unauthorizedcaucus.com. That's where you're going to find the email sign up, and you're going to be able to get in on the notification chain, when they're coming out, and also all of the links, of which today there will be a few that you'd like to get to. They'll read some in-depth stuff. It'll be good. And then of course, go to trexinc.com, say thank you to our sponsor, use the promo code caucus30. That's going to get you not only a big fat discount, but it's going to let them know that you came from us. So go say thanks to them. They've got a lot of cool apparel and mugs and a lot of different things. I think there's probably more coming down the way. Every time I go over there, it seems like there's some new kind of product, not just a new design, a new product. So trexinc.com, go on over there, and unauthorizedcaucus.com. I have not finished my first caffeinated beverage yet this morning, so I'm going to stumble around on some words. I was out at Lincoln Days last night here in Missouri. We've got those all over. This is my brief update, and then I'm going to turn to the topic. Republican parties of all the different county structures have their annual fundraiser banquets. So we've got a ton of them around here in the St. Louis area. I was down in Franklin County. Washington, Missouri is a river town out the Missouri River. Probably, I'd have to look. I'm not sure the history of Washington, but I would imagine it was established with the Lewis and Clark expedition, or at least something similar to it, because Lewis and Clark started in St. Charles, where I live. Very proud of that age of exploration before we all became liberalized sissies here in the 21st century. I'm just kidding. Not all of us. But it's always a good time to get out and meet the local Republican Party. Got to do that last night. They asked me to share a few words. We talked a little bit about Americanism. That's what I was on, and our casting of a vision for the future, not just Republican Party politics, but our American identity. So that was fun, but I'm also tired. You go and hang out with a bunch of local Republicans. You have a good time, and man, I'm pooped.
Well, don't forget that the age of exploration is not over. We've just kind of been in an interim phase. But
we have been in an interim phase.
We're going to Mars, and we've talked about that here on Unauthorized Caucus.
We have.
Yeah.
The Aenean Age, the new Aenean Age. That was a good episode. You should go back and listen to that. So, well, and by the way, I'll remind you, if you're watching us on Rumble, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so you get all those notifications. And then if you are a podcast listener, of which of you, there are many now, we would love to have you. If you want to take a moment to give us a 5-star rating and a little review, that would be awesome. Wherever it is you're listening, if you're on Spotify or Apple or any of the other products that pull from those podcast libraries, we'd love for you to do that. It would really definitely boost what we're doing. So please take a moment when we're done today, when you're done listening, and give us that rating and review. Or if you're on Rumble, you can hit the like and subscribe button.
I don't think there's not even a review option on Spotify, and I don't think Apple either. You just hit the 5 stars. It's that easy. So if
Apple used to do reviews, have they stopped?
I don't know. But as long as you're not driving right now, you should be able to just click it. 5
If you're listening to this in the car, do not stop and hit. Don't stop in traffic.
We will give you 3 seconds because that's how long it will take to click it. 1, 2, 3. Thank you for the 5-star rating.
Now you sound like one of those one of the nanny state devices that you can put in your car from insurance companies.
But we said don't do it if you're in your car. So in the car that was just a count up.
Well, let's do this because I know that we've got limited time here this morning, and I want to make sure we hit the topic pretty hard at hand here. But I believe I've advocated for a little while that we need a different approach to a topic that is very culturally relevant right now. And then I saw this piece just came out. It's just about a month ago, but I think it's time to have this conversation in full. Mason, you co-authored your alias. I'm doxing you at least. Dr. Monzo over on Substack. You, of course, see him alongside my name every week on Caucus here. But you did a piece with Nordic Nixon. And I love it when people put really, non-controversial headlines. IVF is a scam. And actually, here's your preview, folks, coming up at the end of April. We have a Phyllis Schlafly radio report commentary coming out called A Christian Approach to IVF and Politics. This is one that we're going to continue to talk about a lot. But I want to bring this up and just kind of go from there. Mason, what's this IVF as a scam piece about? What do you mean? What prompted you to write this? And what's the main gist that you're trying to get across?
Yeah, well, what prompted me to write this was, I co-authored it, obviously, but I was having a discussion with a lot of friends about IVF, and everybody had some very good and unique opinions. And one of my friends, Nordic Nixon, is his alias. I messaged him. I was like, "Hey, I really like the points you were making. Let's put something together to put out on my Substack." And he said, "Okay, sounds good." So we worked on this together, and really the scam aspect of it is that. And you think about what IVF is meant to solve. It's meant to solve the issues of fertility. Like that's what people want at core. The people that are getting IVF, what they want at the bottom level is to just have kids. They want children, and they think that IVF is the only option or the best option to do that. When it's really not. And my co-author did a lot of research on fertility. And if you can look down in the footnotes, he referenced a lot of different books and resources on fertility issues, and even an anecdote where a friend of his all they had to do to be able to conceive a child was just change their shampoo, because the shampoo they were using had toxins in it that was messing with their fertility. So it was something as simple as that. But if you're not thinking in those terms, you're going to say, oh, okay, I got to do IVF. I got to spend $10,000 for this and, make it this whole medical thing. So the scam aspect of it is that it's a very, very expensive way of solving a problem that could be solved much more easily. But for whatever reason, a lot of people out there would rather spend $10,000 or more on this than make some simple lifestyle changes.
Well, and part of the thing is it's not, and by the way, thank you for an excellent synopsis. It's not even really so much in my mind that people would rather spend the more money. There's a lot of people who literally don't know. They haven't been red pilled yet on just how much we are poisoning ourselves, or how much we have drastically changed what we eat, what we wear, what we put on our bodies. And that really is, I'm so very grateful for the MAHA coalition that has come up, the Make America Healthy Again, because you have really kind of the crunchy left and the far, I guess I hate to say autonomous, because it's the personal autonomy that I think of that as a leftist thing, but like this, no, leave me alone and let me make my own decisions and be fully transparent with me. Those two, the far left and the far right on this issue, have kind of met in the middle and realized we have a common enemy. And it's a bunch of people who are, basically poisoning us, either because they hate us, or really more likely because this at some point was good for the corporate bottom line. And it was easier, faster, cheaper, something like that. And now we just do it because this is the way to pull every inch out of the soil, or to get all the bugs gone so we get the highest crop yield, or to cut that product with whatever seed oil, or the shampoo with whatever chemical, because it makes it cheaper for us to make more money and to expand and grow. And at the end of it all, I respect capitalism, but also, there is a responsibility we have, as capitalists, to be transparent, to be honest, to have good products, to not hurt people.
That's part of capitalism, is that it takes time to adjust to the proper, the proper demand, and it's not all instant like it is in the economics textbooks. It's a process. The economy is a process, and it's a very long process to get to the absolute best, most healthy, most consumer friendly ingredients to all this stuff.
Yeah. But, the point though, by the way, I realized I kind of went off on a rabbit trail there, but all of that, which is a big cultural moment, that's what we are watching right now as RFK runs roughshod over HHS, which I'm so excited. There's so much fun stuff going on over there. Those agencies are getting cut to ribbons. What did Robert Kennedy Jr. yesterday announced? A nearly 40% reduction in staff. They're going to let go 22,000. If I think I'm remembering the number correctly, 22,000 staff from HHS, and he wants to cut the number of agencies from, I forget how many. There's different divisions, and it's going to cut it in almost half.
That's wild that we have that many people in HHS, and we're also first or second in the world with obesity. It's insane.
I mean, it kind of goes to it too. We were talking about this this week, like the Department of Education. Yeah, they're going to hack and burn at the Department of Education, but you start to realize, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't actually change a lot of the titled funding mechanisms where federal money goes to the student lunch program or to this grant or that grant. Those still exist. So wait a minute, why in the heck do we even have the Department of Education if we're still doing the funding aspect of it, which is what everyone seems to be worried about? What are all these people sitting here? Well, there's 80 people in the communications department that are making $10 million a year in salaries at the Department of Education. And it has nothing to do with funding states and kids in school. That's an easy get rid of it. But anyway, I'm sorry. The bottom line, this giant moment that we're in now, I think that's what leads me, interestingly, to this IVF conversation, because as people start to realize, wait a minute, there is another way to fix this problem. It's not just a problem that's popped up, so I have to go to the people who are selling me the solution. You start to realize maybe IVF is a manufactured solution for a manufactured problem. Like we're, and I say that not as if even if it was a giant conspiracy, but, oh, well, here's how we can fix that problem. And it's like when you go to your doctor and say, my knee hurts. Well, I can give you a painkiller for that. No, I want you to look at my knee and tell me why it's hurting so I can fix that to get it to stop hurting. I want you to just mask the symptom with something that's going to give me more symptoms. Similarly, you look at IVF and say, well, are we just making up another industry to change something that could be changed another way? Why are we figuring out how to treat fertility? Why don't we figure out why infertility started to skyrocket?
Right.
Let's ask the different question.
Right.
So I appreciate that you're asking it.
Yeah. And you can get like really, really into it with, as you said, there's the crunchy people on both the far left and the far right. And, and I like,
of which I identify. I don't mean that as a pejorative. I identify with that.
Yeah. I like the ones on the far right. If you guys don't know Raw Egg Nationalist, y'all got to check him out. He's great.
That's a good one.
Yep. He's fantastic. He's publisher of Man's World magazine, but you can get like super into it, and it can be a little bit overwhelming once you start realizing, oh, there's poison in everything, like all this plastic stuff. There's microplastics and everything. I mean, there's microplastics in your brain, and there's nothing you can do about that at that point. But you don't really need to become this this Luddite hermit living in the woods, escaping every aspect of the world to get your health to the point where it's efficacious. Like, you just kind of need to be cognizant of this stuff and take a few steps to figure out, okay, finding that balance between being healthy and being healthy in a way that gets you to your aims, whether it's just like being generally healthy or protecting fertility, or being healthy in a way that it's finding the balance between that and then like actually being able to function in the world. Because sure, you could spend all your time researching every ingredient of everything, but like at some point you kind of got to decide, hey, like I have a job and kids and a life, and I can't just do this all the time. But thankfully, there are people that do this all the time, and they've made a career out of it, and they're giving good information. So I definitely recommend checking out some of the books in the footnotes, and doing some research on that stuff online. But another big part of this thing is the political aspect of it,
Right.
Which is the subtitle. The right has it wrong too, because. And we're not touching on abortion here, but there is a big crossover between the strong pro-life side of the right and being anti-IVF. And, I identify with that. I agree with that. However, I know that we do not have a magic wand to just make American politics what we want it to be. And IVF is even more of a kind of gray area removed issue in the public consciousness. Like, the average person really just thinks it's like, oh, it's like a medical thing to help people have babies. And that's all
treatment.
That's all they think it is. They don't know the specifics. And so when you come out the gate swinging with, these staunch pro-life talking points, that's just going to make people defensive. And that's why we said, quote, stop talking about the IVF issue and tackle the underlying issue, which is what MAHA is doing. It's dealing with the underlying issues of, okay, there's poison in everything, and that's what's causing infertility, instead of saying, hey, time for a moral lecture, because people don't want to hear that. But if you frame it as, this is something that's good for you, here's some stuff that's good for you, this stuff will improve your life and make you a happier, healthier person, and I'm giving you this information, and it's going to work for you regardless of your political stances or your morals or anything like that, whatever religious views you have. Like, this stuff is just healthier for a human being to practice. And if framing it like that, I mean, that's not going to make people defensive at all. They're going to say, oh, wow, this is really helpful. Thank you. That's why the right needs to tackle the underlying issue and not go for, because if that's solved, IVF goes away. There won't be any need for it. But you also need to wonder, okay, the medical industrial complex that does rake in money from this, they probably don't care too much for that to happen. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
No, that's and see, that's the angle we're coming at. So first of all, yes, there's the health angle to this, which is really the bottom line question. It's not should we be, the fundamental question shouldn't even be is IVF okay or not. The fundamental question should be, why do we even have this discussion? Why is IVF on the horizon? It's because of fertility. Well, why do we have a fertility problem? And to your point, the political side, that's really where I was coming in on the Phyllis Schlafly commentary side. What you'll hear in April is because this revealed an opportunity for, you and I folks as conservatives, me and Mason, to really step in with a moderated position. And I don't mean that as far as the values, like a moderate, middle of the road. I mean, someone who is not just running to one extreme or the other, someone who's not just reacting to the situation, which is the same thing. You look at IVF and you could even ask, well, are we reacting? Is this massive rise in the use of IVF we're reacting to infertility instead of saying, well, hold on, but why? Why is infertility here? Not just, well, how do we fix that? Oh my goodness, well, we can do these treatments. And when you look at the response, I mean, this comes to last election year. Obviously, it was suddenly IVF turned into, and what was the genesis of this, Mason? Was it was it Alabama or Mississippi?
I think it was Alabama.
Because there was a court case, and I forgot to pull this up because I was off into the weeds on your article. But there was a court case where, essentially a bunch of conservatives were kind of starting to put some, we'll say, guardrails on the IVF industry and put some restrictions on it. And that, of course, and I'm oversimplifying greatly. We're not here to rehash the whole history. But what that did was it let the American political left, in the height of a campaign season, presidential season, just run full bore. Oh my gosh, they're going to take away your fertility treatments. The Handmaid's Tale has come. Like they just went off the edge of nuttiness. And what happened in Trump world, and a lot of people running, unfortunately, but necessarily, they ran the other direction. No, we love IVF. In fact, we're going to protect IVF. We're going to protect IVF. And it's like, I feel like I was left in the middle going, hold on. Why are we running as far as we possibly can in each of the opposite directions instead of asking authentic questions? Again, this is my Lincoln Douglas style debate training coming out. But what's the underlying value? Not just, well, I don't like what he said and I disagree with it so much so that I'm going to run this way. And I thought this is a real opportunity for thoughtful, conscious conservatives to say, wait a minute, let's think about this for a minute instead of just reacting. Do I really want to wholeheartedly embrace IVF just because the left claims a lie that we want to destroy it? And I think now, the Trump world has reacted all the way to protecting it, and he signed his big thing in January, which that's what you wrote about in February. That's what preceded this, February 24, this article. You say last week, President Trump signed the executive order expanding access into in vitro fertilization. And it is a knee-jerk reaction from the Trump folks to protect something that I look at and say, well, what are we protecting? And this is where the political side comes in, where I think we have a lot of people that need to understand, or at least maybe be conscious about the fact we need to be better at messaging on this. The right does. That I don't have a problem with people who want children. Now, make no mistake, there are a lot of people out there probably who are using IVF. I think we hear about these things to create designer babies, or what I would call unnatural couples. When two homosexual men want a child, guess what? That does not work. That's not part of creation order. Right. So they have to go a different route. Surrogacy, which I have problems with. IVF is often a part of that. There are people who use the industry for designer babies or for trying to go around the way that God created man and woman. But many, I would say most, I don't actually know if I've seen statistics on that, but most people I see, it's couples that have a problem with infertility. Their desire for children, to have children, to start a family, this is good and healthy, and I want to lean into that. I would sign an executive order to support that. That is good. My question mark, my hesitation, and where I really want to see the brakes pumped. What in the world are you doing over there?
There's a lawnmower right outside.
Oh my goodness. Welcome to, I didn't even know there was a window in front of you, but now I know.
It's across the room. I'm in a basement, but the lawnmower is just like above me.
Oh my goodness. Well, please don't die and don't get a haircut the wrong way. If you're in the basement, I hate for them to, come through the wall and run over you. But anyway, I'm sorry. It was a terrible dad joke.
Okay. I think it stopped.
It did. Welcome to live recording, folks. It's not live, but it's live recording. But you look at it and say, okay, I want to be very specific when I hear, when I say to people who I know who've gone through IVF, when I say, yeah, I don't support IVF. You didn't support my right to have a child? No, that's not what I'm saying. I think that was good and healthy. I think that the industry behind IVF has a lot of question marks, and we need to be very careful because there are unhealthy, unsafe, inhumane processes. And I mean, just like your shampoo company, we get all up in arms when you find out you're doing all kinds of unnatural testing on animals. It's like, well, this product isn't worth that. Well, guess what? Are we doing that with human embryos? Are we creating, if you believe life begins at conception, are we creating a bunch of little tiny babies that are just at the very, very first stage of development just to pick what we think is the best one, and the rest of them get frozen and potentially forgotten and discarded? Is this what we call this is snowflake babies, right? Or is that a different phrase? When someone adopts an embryo, I think that's what that is. So it's, when you have, embryo adoption, snowflake babies, people adopt some of these embryos, but that's the thing. Like, you can adopt someone else's embryo that was frozen because we create however many in the IVF process. And then your phone is vibrating. And then I'm kidding. I know it's not your phone. You create however many embryos, and then you pick the healthiest ones and move with those. What happens to the rest of them? Well, if someone can adopt it and have it implanted and end up going through the full, gestational pregnancy and having a child and raising a child, guess what? it is a human life. It has the potential to be a human life, and only a human life. And it is a human life. So if you believe as I do, you look at it and go, okay, I support your desire to have a family and have children. But usually when we as a society with technology say by any means necessary, we will, well, pause, not by any means necessary. That's the distinction. And, you know, I just gave a long explanation. We as conservatives have to figure out how to give an explanation for why I support the desire for parenthood, but I do not support the industry of IVF as it exists now, which has, I mean, more than questions about its morality. There's a lot of big problems, but I don't necessarily put that moral equation on the shoulder of at least most of the parents I know who support IVF or used IVF. That wasn't on their radar. Trying to have children was, and that's respectable.
Yeah.
And to your point, we're deep into the world of, and I appreciated that so much in your article over here. You said something to the effect of, well, you know, normal people want to get pregnant. This is good. The core customers, life and consent. But here, the average American is broadly secular in their ethics. They hold a middle ground position. They believe that abortion should probably not be banned outright, but also think that it shouldn't be electively available in, you know, in the midterm or later. And for these people, sounding the alarm that IVF is murder is weird. The process is so sanitized and technical that pointing that out to most people, they just shrug. They don't realize. So in this moment, I got very annoyed with, especially surrounding, I was annoyed with Trump that we're just going to go full bore IVF. I was annoyed with the pro-lifers that were like, Donald Trump is not pro-life because he's signing IVF. Well, I technically agree with you, but that's a real good way to make sure that the majority of Americans don't listen to you. I would like to be both right and effective.
Right.
I feel like we talk about that a lot here, don't we, Mason?
Yeah, it's good to be right and effective, and I think it's right and effective to help people solve their problem in a better way. And something I thought of is that if you think of two groups that do not struggle very much with fertility, it's Orthodox Jews and Catholics. Because, well, Orthodox Jews, you read Leviticus and you can figure out why. It's like, oh, they're paying a lot of attention to this stuff. But with Catholics, the Catholics have the natural family planning thing. And the health
completely
industry
left out evangelical homeschoolers, and I'm very
offended. I mean, well, I'm just exposed to the Catholic world, but like I know that the medical world and insurance will pay a lot of attention if you say, hey, here are the fertility records from the last 4 months. We've been tracking all of it, and they're like, okay, awesome, because we have all the data to get started on, you know, hyper specific treatment, and it's actually very effective. It's one of the most, I mean, I think it's like one of the most effective forms of birth control, even though it's not exactly birth control, but it's also one of the most, one of the fastest ways to get heard out by a doctor and have your insurance cover it in regards to, you know, dealing with fertility stuff. Because it's not shooting blind in the wind. It's like, okay, we have all the data on this stuff. And the stereotype of Catholics is that they have a ton of kids. You know, this is not a group that's dealing with infertility at the same rate that the average population is. So, and it's not just because Catholics don't use contraception. It's because we have our lack of use of contraception creates an environment where we have to find alternatives and think about these issues on a deeper level than most people do.
Well, and that, you know, in our last 5 or 10 minutes here, that leads me to my two questions. So the point that we have here on Caucus, and I mean, really do, like, there's go look this up. We'll make sure and link it. But this article from Nordic Nixon and Dr. Manzo, our own Mason Mohan, we'll link this. There's a lot of interesting stuff. If you want to start looking into why fertility is a problem and how that is fixed outside of IVF, there's a huge rabbit hole. But for our purposes, kind of on the political side, when it comes to messaging, and that's what, you know, we always talk about, this is starting the conversation. How do we effectively start this conversation or have this conversation with people around us who maybe do not understand or share the same values that we do? And it is, I think it's twofold. Tell me, Mason, if I'm wrong. I think these are the two main things to ask is, number one, to tell people, I don't have a problem with folks who want to fix their fertility problems. I think that's great. I think that the IVF industry has a lot of issues that need to be addressed that are unhealthy and unsafe. And then the second part of it is, but also, is IVF really the best answer to fertility? Why is the infertility happening in the first place? To put those two questions into people's mind. Oh, you're not against parents who want kids. You're against the people giving them the services. And then, oh, wait, you're right. What is the underlying question? Is there something else that we should plant? Because I feel like those are two good questions to tell people. I'm not against the parents. I have problems with the industry. I think everyone would identify with that. And then the other side, is there something else that we should throw into that mix, do you think?
No, I think you nailed it. I think that reframing it as, okay, we're trying to solve the issue at a underlying level, which will help you in many other ways. Well, and okay, one other thing I want to point out, though, is in the conclusion, me and my co-author talk about, best of all, treating women as the victims is a more politically viable strategy, which is something that's the right has really struggled with in terms of pro-life, finding that balance between like, oh, saying the moms are the victims and they're blameless, and versus like, oh, they're terrible, women who get abortions, like going one way or the other. And there's really no winning on that side of things, because it sounds the alarm bells either way. But framing it as like, okay, women are struggling with fertility because of the system that's been set up that's poisoning them, and like they are victims here, and they are truly victims. It's not just kind of like political hand waving and like smoke and mirrors. It's right. True. And framing things in that way, that okay, like as long as you weren't like blatantly irresponsible, you can't really be blamed for not knowing that there's poison in everything, and that this like shampoo that you thought was perfectly fine is actually the root of your problems, or that these pans that you thought were perfectly fine and that you cook food with are actually causing these problems. Like you can't be blamed for that, because it's not like a pack of cigarettes where there's a big warning on it. That stuff is just out in the store and has no warning whatsoever on it.
Right. We're just learning as a society about some of these things. And that's for those of us who are at childbearing age, having children, like look around and go, oh my gosh, that is that way. I had no idea. Well, now I can do something about it, but how deep into this are we? Like, am I kind of stuck? Yeah. What do you think? Here's my thought. When it comes to really the bottom line, not so much the underlying fertility, but the attacking IVF, to distinguish that, no, I'm not attacking people who desire, people pursuing IVF because they desire to have kids. I'm attacking the industry. I have a what do you think? Is it a good line of attack? I would tend to think so, to say, I don't have a problem with people wanting to be parents. I have a problem with unethical industries, and I have a lot of ethical questions about IVF. I don't want my shampoo companies inhumanely killing animals to get me a better product, and I don't want the IVF company indiscriminately creating what I believe are tiny human lives and then discarding the majority of them because we got one that stuck. These are not ethical ways to approach a very, pure, I want a good product, I want a family. That's a good thing to desire. I'm not equating those two, but like, that doesn't mean we cut every corner ethically and morally to get there. And that's my problem. It's the industry. It's not the people seeking it. Is that a good short way to get into it, do you think?
Yeah, you nailed it.
And that's the thing, like, this isn't going away. It rose in February when Trump signed the IVF thing, but it's coming for other states too. And I guarantee you, folks, that the pro-life organizations in your states and localities, a lot of them are probably going to stumble over this issue and not address it well. You can be a help to them. A lot of your state legislators, they're going to stumble over this issue and maybe not handle it well. You can be a help to them, because I really do think that with some better messaging, we can get the vast majority to see, oh, we like parenthood, but we don't like an industry that's immoral and unethical. And I'm not falsely equating the parents seeking those folks. The mad scientist is to blame, not his victims. And it's true. It is much more politically palatable, and it's not inaccurate. You're not just creating a much nicer sounding story. You're just focusing on the thing that people understand and identify with more. But there you go. We need to be better. IVF is a scam, and it's nothing to do with the people seeking it. They're the ones who are getting scammed, and that's what we want to fix. That's what we want to help, because IVF it's got problems up and down. There you go. I think that's a short conversation today, but I think it's one that needs to be had. And we've written on it. It's coming out, like I said, this month. Look for it on April 25. I think that script drops over at phyllisschlafly.com. Might try to give you a sneak peek of it in this in the notes here. You'll get early access information. And then, of course, a big article over here. But we need to get honed in on this. And frankly, this almost leads, which we're not getting into today, this leads into the rights talking points on abortion, which I think have gotten better in some ways, and in other ways is still just a chaotic mess. The left constantly changes and lies. It's hard to fight with them over this. But this is one that we're on the very front side of, I think. IVF isn't brand new or anything, but the political fight over it is right now, and it's just recent. We have the real opportunity to carve out the right message, folks. That's why we want to talk about this. That's why Mason's writing about it. We're writing about it at Philadelphia Eagles. This is a current issue. Be on the front side of it with us so that we message correctly. So that's that.
See you next week when it will be caucus time.
Caucus time. Go to unauthorizedcaucus.com, sign up for all the goodies, and go to trexinc.com and buy yourself all the goodies with the code caucus30. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next week for another Unauthorized Caucus. Have a good week.